Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Duke, and this is The Takeaway, our weekly segment discussing the latest news and events with Alex Newman. As you know, Alex is a great correspondent for us. And so, Alex, we're going to talk today about Collier County, Florida, and what's going on with a charter school. You and I have talked about this a lot over the years, that these charter schools, these voucher schools that teach classical education, that reject Common Core, their very success was going to ultimately be used against them by the educrats in charge. Tell us a little bit about what's going on in Florida.
Sure. Well, thanks, Duke. I've been following developments in Collier County for some time now. A number of people down in that area have contacted me over the years about different topics, and the education battles that are raging there, I think, say a lot about what's happening across Florida and across the nation. But what's going on there right now, there's this school you mentioned, the Mason Classical Academy, and they are at the top of the top of the top of the charts. They're #1 in Collier County. Across the state of Florida, they're in the top 1%, top 2%, and their reading is incredible. You know, they got 90% of their third graders are proficient in reading. If you compare that to the county average, it's way under 60%. If you compare that to California, you know, we're talking about 43% of the kids are proficient in reading. And so I immediately figured, you know, without knowing anything more, hey, they're teaching reading the correct way. Whereas, you know, we all know now that Common Core mandates this quackery called the whole word, the sight method. They have the little kindergartners memorizing words as if it were Chinese. So that was my theory, and I called up the founder of the school, Kelly Lichter, who's also on the school board, and said, hey, you know, what's your reading program like? And I found out, well, yep, they are really using a genuine, proper phonics program, and I'm 100% sure that's why their reading scores and their English scores are so high. And so, you know, that was pretty fascinating to me. And then come to find out, they are persecuting this school. The school board is, you know, making a big fuss. The local propaganda organ owned by Gannett is, you know, making up smear stories. And, you know, rather than learning something from this school, it seems like the local establishment has it out for them.
Well, first of all, I think you're exactly right about phonics. How can something that has worked so well for so many hundreds of years, the phonics approach to teaching kids how to read, how in the world do they why do they keep trying to reinvent that wheel? We know that it works almost every time it's employed. Why are they substituting all this garbage way of learning for phonics when we know that phonics actually teaches kids how to read?
I'm convinced, and so is Dr. Sam Blumenfeld, with who I wrote The Crimes of the Educators, that this is deliberate. Yeah, it's been known since the 1840s, when this quack method was first tried in the schools in Boston, that it was a total failure, that it produced mass illiteracy, because we have a phonetic writing system, right? We have letters, and each letter represents a sound, and you join those together to make a word. Whereas the Chinese system, you have a symbol that represents a whole word. And so literally, right off the bat, the schoolmasters in Boston said, hey, this is a failure, it's ridiculous. We're not going to keep using it. It was exposed again, Why Johnny Can't Read by Rudolph Flesch. It was exposed again in The New Illiterates by Dr. Sam Blumenfeld in the 70s. And, you know, so this is very, very well known now. Now we even have the neuroscience scans showing that this does actual physical damage to the brain. And yet they continue to use it. And the Common Core people will say, oh, we have phonics in Common Core. Yeah, sure they do. That's true. In elementary school, after you've already damaged the minds of the children by inculcating this reflex to look at words as if they were an entire symbol in and of themselves. And so my theory, and Dr. Blumenfeld's as well, was that this is a deliberate attempt to cause widespread illiteracy, and they've certainly been very successful in that.
Well, and there can really be no other argument. I mean, all the data shows that phonics works. This other stuff, not only does it not work, but it's actually developmentally dangerous. And so you've got the smear operations. Here you have a classical school, right, a charter school, a classical school teaching kids the proper way, and not surprisingly, they're blowing away the Common Core competition. And now you've got the smear organs. You mentioned the Gannett people, the newspaper chain down there, making the argument that, and this one blows me away, making the argument that the school is racist. Explain that one to us.
Yeah, well, there's a local character there. He works with one of the fringe left-wing kooky organizations, and he has spoken at the school board repeatedly. He says it's the Mason Classical Academy for middle-class white children, implying that, and you know, this is a very, very racist group. They posted a racist article on their Facebook the other day saying that white, rural Christian Americans were racist by definition, even saying that their theology is racist, and you know, just absolutely absurd smears to anybody who knows anything about rural America. And one of the founders of the school, one of the leaders of it, he happens to be a state representative now, African-American gentleman, He said, I'm tired of hearing these racist remarks about our school. So they're using racist attacks against this school to try to demonize it. And I think the reason why they're doing that is because this school exposes the rest of them, the rest of the traditional government schools, as a giant money-sucking fraud.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The competition is what Common Core doesn't want. This is pure out socialism. And to me, the takeaway from all of this is that a group of rural, not even rich kids, rural, white, middle-class kids succeeding in education, the non-Common Core way, that is racism to the academic left. Let that sink in for a second, Mom and Dad. That your kids getting a good education is racist because they're not getting a politicized Common Core education. That goes back to what you and I were saying as the takeaway here for a long time, Alex, that Common Core is primarily about sociological indoctrination, psychological evaluative techniques. It's about making your kids good little social justice warriors. It's not about educating them. And here we have a situation where a traditional classical school is educating kids at much higher rates, and the only response from the school authorities is not, we have to emulate them. We have to learn how to teach our kids that way. We have to destroy that school by any means necessary because it has disavowed politicization and ideology in the classroom and chosen instead the great cardinal sin of focusing on education.
That's exactly right, Duke. It really is a travesty. And, Collier County is kind of a microcosm of what's going on across the entire country. So people need to realize this is not isolated to one little corner of Florida. This is a national problem. The dumbing down is accelerating, and they're increasingly going to be targeting the institutions and the parents who do provide a good education for the children.
For our audience, before we sign off here today, talk a little bit about the alliance down there that's trying to fight back against these pseudo-racist Marxists who are attacking the school.
Well, there is a really great group of parents and attorneys and activists and pastors down in that area and across Florida who are, trying to fight back these attacks. And really, they're doing a lot of good work across the state of Florida. They're trying to get the pornography and the false history and all this out of the schools. They want state law enforced. We have state laws on the books that say that children have to be taught about the founding and, the founding documents and what all that means. And the information has to be accurate. It should not be pornographic. And unfortunately, that's not been enforced. But so we do have the Florida Citizens Alliance, for example, is taking the lead on this. They just got some legislation passed into law that is aimed at enforcing state law. And so there are a lot of good things happening. There is a lot of pushback against these radical attacks from the fringe left-wingers and the education establishment on this school and on proper education in general. But, it's an ongoing battle, and it's not going to go anywhere anytime soon.
And that's our takeaway today. If you're out there, Mom and Dad, even if you don't live in Florida, because this kind of garbage is going to start coming to your state as well, take a look at the Florida Citizens Alliance down in Florida. Hop on their website, see if you can support them, because they're fighting the good fight, trying to push back against these baseless slurs against real education. Thanks, Alex. If you enjoyed this video and all of our videos, please consider a tax-deductible donation so we can keep the whole thing free for you. I'm Dr. Duke. Thanks for watching.